Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. I am the founder and the spiritual director. Now, as you are sitting there joining us, you may have questions, any number of questions, such as, who am I? How did I get here? Spiritually integrated arts means what exactly? What is a teaching center? Well, what is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is that? What does that even mean? Or New Thought, or religious science, or science of mind and spirit? You may have any number of questions about this specific community, about the parent organization, CSL, our philosophy, our teaching, our liberation theology. Any number of questions. Feel free to send an email. We look forward to connecting more and building our virtual community, our global community. And if you haven't connected yet on social media, feel free to do so. This is your invitation now. Also, did you know that all of our Sunday messages are archived on our YouTube channel? You can watch it anytime. Now, questions about anything, such as becoming a member. What does that mean? What does membership entail? And if you live somewhere far and already belong to a spiritual community, can you be a member of more than one? The simple answer is yes, you can. Just like you can shop at more than one grocery store, you can attend or be a member of more than one gym. We are building beloved community. So you can do both. You can be a member of both. You can be involved with both. That's what being in spiritual community means. So we welcome you. We invite you. We are so appreciative that you have found this community and that you have joined us today. We bless you. We love you. We welcome you. Live long and prosper. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of our Sunday message. Love you. Connect with you soon. Blessings. Namaste and greetings. Are you ready to make space for it? Today we are talking about the idea of making space for it. Is it time to declutter? Well, if so, then what does it mean to declutter? Not only declutter our physical spaces, our homes, our apartments, our cars, our offices, but declutter the spaces of our lives as a whole. Because we cannot effectively live our lives while something other than our highest and best occupies the space of our lives. Say it again. We cannot live our highest and best if something else is existing in the space that is taking up the time, the treasure, the talent. We can't. So we must make space. Today, we are going to explore and practice how to move into a space where we can effectively create and live the life that we desire and deserve. Be warned, however, that this means some things will be needed to be removed. Some things have to go out of. That might be things. It might be relationships. It might be beliefs and paradigms, but something has to go. Something has to be removed in order to make space for it. What is it, though? Pump your brakes. We're going to get to it. By any chance, does this look like your room? Any room in your home? Does it look like the room of one of your children? Does it look like the space of your mind? When we think about this idea of clutter, since we're going to talk about decluttering, removing that which doesn't serve, are we clear on what clutter even looks like, what it means, how it shows up? What exactly is clutter? Well, according to this young woman, Kathy Paul, or Powell, I'm not sure how she pronounces it. Anything you own, possess, or do that does not enhance your life on a regular basis is clutter. She also says, most people think of clutter as things in their physical environment, but clutter, let me tell you, clutter is not just the physical stuff. Clutter is also the old ideas, the toxic relationships, the bad habits. In other words, clutter can show up in the form of our thoughts. Thoughts are things. Can show up in the form of our thoughts, our activities, our relationships, anything that does not enhance your life. Clutter. Ooh, did she just say, Kathy? Did you just go there, Kathy? Kathy, don't. Clutter. Breathe. Let that sink in. Because there are a lot of things in our lives that we know if we really got down to the nitty gritty, like we talked about last week, if we got down to examining, exploring, excavating, all of that stuff, experimenting, if we got to the real bottom of it, we would be able to easily say this relationship, even though it's with one of my parents, is toxic. With one of my children, it's toxic. With a sibling, it's toxic. Neighbor, toxic. Husband, wife, spouse, toxic. And I'm not immediately saying to completely get rid of the relationship, but at least acknowledge it is toxic. And in so acknowledging, what are we invited to shift, heal, and change? Maybe we don't get a divorce, but do I need to build up some kind of antibodies so that this toxicity doesn't affect me the way that it did last week? Just something to be aware of, because if we're going to actually practice this and to make space for it, then we have to be mindful and aware of what is currently taking up the space. Environmental. What about our thoughts, our mental equivalents? What about our activities? What are we doing? What hobbies? As soon as I get home from work every day, I sit down in front of the couch and drink 5 beers, eat 12 donuts, and binge watch Married with Children. Okay, how is that activity enhancing your life individually and the collective? Or in the grand scheme of things, is it toxic? And then finally, relationships. What's up with our relationships? Breathe. So once again, we return to the space of the clutter. There's stuff everywhere. All of my thoughts are blocking stuff everywhere. My beliefs and my worries and my fear. I know, because Tracy's like, would you stop singing? But in all honesty, what's going on? Can we move freely through our lives in a way that truly benefits, truly demonstrates our awareness that God's nature is our nature? Or are we stumbling over things that shouldn't be on the floor, blocking the view in the window, cluttering the desk, making I have to dig through? And if we're honest, if we're honest, what does your life look like? Each aspect of your life. Break it down. Your relationships, your finances, your physical health and well-being, your mental health and well-being. Break it all down. And then the sum total of it. What does your life look like? Stretching into infinite possibilities, what could your life look like? What could it be if you were to declutter? If you were to seriously look at what it is, oh my, the mess. Everywhere in my mind, everywhere in my spirit, everywhere, there's a mess. My relationships, mess and messy. Because trust and believe, that used to be me and my life. Everywhere I looked, mess. Indoctrination, mess. Toxic relationships, mess and messy and messier. Exes and addictions and obsessions and with a capital M, messy. And then at some point I realized, wait, time out. You saying I can actually get a broom and a mop and some Mr. Clean and clean. Wait a minute, I can actually throw this away. You telling me I don't have to honor this obligation that I've been conditioned to believe that I have to honor? I can say no. I have a sacred power to say no. What? And then we get to after, where I can freely move about my mind, my heart, my space, my life, where I don't have to trip over old beliefs. I don't have to trip over the toxic relationships, which is precisely why is this woman wearing a mask? Because of the toxicity. Let us go back to what Kathy said. Most people think that the clutter, blah, 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 toxic relationships, toxic thoughts and beliefs and ways of being and activities, toxic, meaning they are poisonous. So if we're being honest, once again, looking at our lives, what needs to go? What needs to be put on the pile of? What needs to go? If we're going to, it's like, if have you ever watched one of, let's go back for a second. Have you ever watched one of those, what's the word I'm looking for? Hoarding reality TV shows? And they get the person, the hoarder, to prioritize. They ask them to be able to say, this is a must keep. This is a, let me consider it. This is a, I think it can go. This is yeah, definitely get rid of it. First, you have to discern and organize what's what. Are we able to discern and categorize, group into places and spaces within our consciousness, within our lives? These relationships, a must keep. These thoughts and beliefs, a must keep. These, I got to consider that a little deep. These, a definite can go. Because if we don't actively take the time to discern, to differentiate, to perceive the difference between what is and is not toxic, who is and is not toxic. If we are not doing this, then we are simply going to continue to move about our daily, regular, everyday lives where we expect something to change, but nothing can change until we change. The hoard, the clutter, does not declutter itself. And let us be clear that there is a big difference between collecting, cluttering, and contaminating. See, I can collect comic books, but if it ever reaches a point where the comic books are now impeding my ability to live my best life, then the comic books are becoming cluttering. And if the cluttering is now moved into a space where then it's now contaminating my life. It is now toxic. Are we able to identify the difference? Are we able to differentiate the difference between thoughts that we collect, clutter, contaminate, relationships, collect, meaning the relationships that we hold dear because they are valuable to us, and the relationships, I just want people on Instagram to click like and like me. The more likes I get, the more followers I have, the more it validates who and what I am. That's clutter. And at a certain point, that clutter is now contaminating my mind. Because when we hoard, whatever we are hoarding, technically, in essence, what we are doing is we are defiling, we are infecting, we are polluting, and we are poisoning our lives. Dr. Holmes says, the thing, then, works for us by working through us and is us. Always. It cannot work for us in any other way. It spreads itself over the whole universe and shouts at us, shouts through us from every angle. But it can become power to us only when we recognize it as power. Therefore, our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle which, of itself, is without limit. It is ready to fill everything because it is infinite. So, it is not a question of its willingness nor of its ability. It is entirely a question of our own awareness, receptivity, and embodiment of. And let us be mindful that this power it's active even in the clutter. The law is still the law. God is still God. And the same process by which I collect, when used in a non-life affirming way, is the same process by which that collection becomes clutter and then becomes contamination. It's the same process. So that power, that presence is ever operating in all ways and always. Our invitation is to do so more consciously. What'd you say, Yoda? Oh, we're going to remix, we shall. Okay, cool. Let's remix. The thing then works for us by working through us and as us always. It cannot work for us in any other way. It is the whole of the universe and expresses itself as us in, through, and from every angle. Is a typo. But it, like electricity, can only become usable power in the way that we desire to use it when we actively recognize and apply that power. Therefore, our mental equivalents set the limits as well as the limitlessness of our demonstration of a principle which, of itself, is without limit. It is ever filling and fulfilling everything, because that is the nature of it as the infinite. So it is not a question of its willingness nor of its ability. It is entirely a question of our acknowledged receptivity and active use. Are we acknowledging our receptivity, and are we actively using it? That's the question and the invitation. So breathe. And once again, as I often do, using physicians as our role models because we are metaphysicians. So one of the things that physicians and scientists do is they identify the disease. They identify the thing that is causing problem. They identify the clutter. If that clutter is plaque buildup, whether the plaque is teeth or plaque is in arteries, they identify the clutter. There is a blockage here. There is a brokenness. They identify the obstruction or the obstacle. That's first, discernment. Dr. Holmes invites, we are thinking, willing, knowing, conscious centers of life. We are surrounded by, immersed in, and there is flowing through us and as us a creative something, call it whatever you will, the sum total of our thought, will, purpose, and belief creates a tendency in this law that causes it to react to us, through us, as us, according to the sum total of that belief. And not just the belief, but the sum total of that all belief, full mental equivalent, thoughts, words, emotions, feeling, all of it. The sum total of it all is what the law is responding to. So, identify the clutter, differentiate what is and is not clutter. This is collection, this is trash. This is life affirming, this is not. This is healthy, this is contamination. Then, knowing that the thing can work for us only through us, because it's working as us, let us begin to accept today more good than we experienced yesterday. Talk about stretching into infinite possibility. Whatever good we experienced yesterday, I've mentioned this before, but you may be new. There's this idea of the pendulum. And the pendulum set point here, it may swing to one end and it's a 0, to the other end and it's a 10. And we may be swinging wherever that is that we're swinging, right? But if we move the pivot point, even when this swings its furthest, it's never going to reach a 0 again. It's never going to reach a 3 again. The furthest this now reaches is a 5. At the lowest point, it's a 5, which now means at its highest point, it's a 15. I didn't even know 15 was possible. So whatever good we experienced yesterday, we may not even realize that there's even more infinite good possible. Are we willing to stretch into even more good than we may realize is possible? And to know that we shall reap a harvest of fulfilled desires. The time must come when we shall have left the apparent evil, clutter, contaminant behind, when it shall be rolled up like a scroll and numbered with the things which were once thought to be. At one time, we thought that, what is this? At one time, we thought that by slicing people in the arm and letting them bleed, that it would resolve their headaches. We no longer believe this. And we file it away as, yeah, that's what we used to believe. We used to believe that the earth was flat, no more. We used to believe that the earth was the center of the universe and that everything, including the sun, revolved around. We no longer. We once believed that no longer. We no longer. We once believed that people of this color should be slaves. We no longer. We once believed that women should be burned at the. We no longer. Once we believed that children as young as 8 years old, they could work in a factory. We no longer. We roll it up because we understand that just because we thought it yesterday, we don't have to think it today. I would think of things I never thought before, and then I'd stretch and think much more. Yeah, no, I remixed the song. Get used to it. But the idea is, are we willing to stretch and move into, be open at the top and open at the bottom, and move into a new space of experiencing, to make room for it to be what it is as us? And as I said last week when Dr. Holmes offered us, one of the greatest difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. Yeah, I think I'll clean my room tomorrow. And tomorrow comes and goes. Yeah, no, I said I was thinking about cleaning my room, but clearly didn't do it. You know what? I would really love to learn karate. I'm going to sign up for a class next week. Next week comes and goes. It is a month later. Yeah, yeah. 4 years ago, I was going to learn karate, and I wanted to learn karate, and I still want to learn karate. But the evidence of my life is showing that I am not convicted and truly willing to do it, or I would be doing it. Too much theory and too little practice. As a matter of fact, we only embody as much as we can prove by actual demonstration. That which we cannot prove may or may not be true, but that which we can prove, not necessarily prove to another, but prove for ourselves, certainly must be, and it is the truth. And if you did not catch what I said last week referencing this, I invite you to go back and watch last week. But the idea is you need not prove anything to others. Like, I can't prove to you that I love my sons. I can't prove it to you. I can't prove to you that I love Tracy. I can't prove that to you. But I feel it. I have proven it to myself that this thing that I feel, that's love. And because that is what it is, it causes me to act and respond in a certain way. You say, what? What are you talking about? But not doing anything about, says Yoda. What are you talking about doing? I'm talking about meditating more. I'm talking about applying science of mind and spirit more. I'm talking about taking a class, a workshop. I'm talking about writing a book. I'm talking about improving my life, being of service in the world. I'm talking about it, but I'm not doing. So once again, part of our invitation is discern. How do we identify what to keep, what to trash, what to sell, what to recycle, what to donate? As we are going through the clutter of, can we identify what thoughts do we keep? Are there certain thoughts that we can recycle, such as, initially there was a thought that God was an anthropomorphic old white man with a beard sitting on a cloud in heaven. I've recycled that thought to understand that God is the infinite all that there is, and it is incarnating itself as me. I did not keep that idea of God. I didn't trash that idea of God. I recycled the idea of God. I reinterpreted it, reinvented it, and reapply that concept. Can we identify whatever the thing, relationships, like what box? And I understand we're not going to sell some relationships. I got this is just for the sake of identifying the material things in our lives. But the concept is, in decluttering, how do I go through to decontaminate and detoxify any areas of our lives, any area of my life? How am I invited to do this? to sort through the things and identify. As Octavia Butler says, all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. And that the only lasting truth that there is change. God is change. And because God is change, we could also remix this and say God is evolution. God is the evolutionary impulse of all that is. Therefore, God is ever changing in, through, and as all that there is. So rather than resist change, let's invite it. Let's welcome it. Let's surf it. Breathe. So we said at the beginning, what was the title for this week? Making space for what exactly? Making space for it. Where you said it. What? Not it. No, wrong it. What is the it that we are talking about? Breathe. Dr. Holmes reminds us mental work is definite. We said this last week as well. Each state of thought taps the same principle. Each uses the same law, is inspired by the same spirit. Each draws forth a different result, however. Here is the multiplicity of all that God is, proceeding from the unity. There is oneness that shows up as the multitude. This is what Emerson meant when he said, unity passes into variety. The one becomes the many, but it is still only one. That's the it. We are making room for, you said what? Oh, we're remixing this one too, Yoda? Cool. Go for it. Remix. Mental equivalent work is definite. Ooh, I see what you just did there. Each aspect of our mental equivalence is empowered by the same principle. Each uses the same law and is inspired by the same spirit, even while each expresses as a different result. The mental equivalent of physical health and that of financial health are different resulting expressions and different experiences, even while using the same principle and practices of creation. Breathe. What do you see in each of these images? What do you see? Now, we may say any number of things. Well, we see love and we see family, but are those interpretations? Because these could be actors posing for pictures. And the point coming back to the idea of we cannot prove what we feel, but we can prove it to ourselves, and we can let that embodied feeling, that embodied mental equivalent, then show up in, through, and as the activity of our lives. We are making space for it, making space for God to be God as us, and this can show up as quality family time, as love that is expressed in compassion and listening and affection and laughter, and all of the ways that quality family time means something. So the it, God, shows up in, through, and as everything in our lives. So when we say making space for it, yes, making space for God, clear. But making space for God as God shows up as quality family time. Making space for it as God shows up as what? Any number of things. We are making space for it, making space for the divine to show up in, through, and as us, as our creativity, as our community efforts, as our karate, as our painting and singing and dancing and loving. We are making space for it to be it as us, expressed as and by us. But if we are allowing the contamination of the clutter, to block and prohibit, we're going to continue to make excuses for why we don't paint, why we don't draw, why we don't write, why we don't travel, why we don't live. So, for you in this moment, what is your it? Do you remember? I think it's NBC. They would do the commercials, the more you know. Okay, well, the more you know. And G.I. Joe, their tagline was knowing is half the battle. Okay, the more you know what your it is, the more you can respond in a certain way. And when you know that what this is your it, that is half of the work to living it. So, what is your it? What is the it? The all that you are as the divine that is seeking to express itself as you. Reminded that we went over this last week. God expresses God, and that expression appears as you, care of Joel Goldsmith. For the highest God and the innermost God is one God and not two, Dr. Holmes. Between me and God, there is no between, Meister Eckhart. And two more from Dr. Holmes. The life within you, the life that you are, is God. And whatever is true of God is true of you and your life. Because your life and that which is the one life, God, are not two, but are one. And the only God you and I could ever know is the one that we embody. Never forget that. So, who are you destined to be as this person making room, making space for it? You get to choose. What are you choosing? Your destiny, what are you choosing by making space for it? Once again, as a physician, what are we invited to? The more you know about how the disease, the more you know about how the human body, how the mind, the more you know, does it not change the way we show up and react and respond? Does it not change the way a physician can heal or help the patient to be healed, to be cured? Because the more they know, while it is true that we are influenced and impacted by all kinds of external circumstances, situations, and experiences, such as feeling hot on a sweltering day. By the way, a day sweltering is a day that Tracy says is comfortable. Such as feeling hot on a sweltering day, being in traffic, or receiving an unwanted medical diagnosis. Our true power is utilized not in controlling the external conditions, but in mastering our mental equivalence about those conditions. Because the creative law responds to our mental equivalence, which shape our lives, which shape our experiences, which shape our conditions. There isn't a single perfect mental equivalent to hold. Rather, it is crucial to become aware of the sum total of the mental equivalents that we are aligned with, which are impacting both our individual reality and the collective reality. Breathe. We cannot change what we do not bring to the forefront of our minds to change. We cannot change a mental equivalent that we are unaware of, just like hidden mold. There may be something going on with our respiration that we think is allergies. We think it's hay fever. We think it's the cat, the dog. It's hidden mold. And we cannot do anything about the hidden mold until it's no longer hidden. We cannot change a mental equivalent that's hidden till we reveal it, till we identify it. So we must bring that which is unseen to the seen, unknown to the known, unaware to the awareness, which means we must investigate. Referencing this thing we call, what are they? What are they? They're called termites. Is it better to know or not to know that they are there? I'm just asking. Would you rather know or not know? Ignorance is bliss. Would you rather know or not know? Because whether you know or don't know, they're still chewing away at the wood. They're still gnawing away at the foundation. But when you know, when the mold is no longer hidden, when the termites are no longer hidden, then we are able to do something about it. When the subconscious and unconscious beliefs and mental equivalents are brought to the forefront of our minds, we can change them and do something about it. That which we don't face, that which we are continually unaware of, we will live on repeat, on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. We will continue, as Eckhart Tolle says. If you don't face it, if you don't bring it to the light, if you don't bring the light of your consciousness to the pain, to the trauma, to the mold and termites, you will forever be forced to relive again and again and again that condition. The pain body may seem to you to be a huge and dangerous monster that one cannot face. You cannot even bear to look at it or speak it. But I assure you that it is an insubstantial phantom. It is a fart in the wind that cannot prevail against the power of your divine presence. Look at yourself. As Carl Jung says, the person who looks outside dreams. The person who looks inside awakens. The more you know who and what you are, the more you awaken to the truth, your true nature, your God nature. The more you awaken to that, and the more you awaken to that, the more you can live it. The more you can stretch into the infinite possibility of it. To such a degree that the possibility becomes probability, becomes inevitability. Breathe. The science of mind and spirit offers us access to the truth of ourselves in a way that we are then also afforded a way to live that truth. It gives us the means to accomplish what that old, remember the G.I. Joe thing I mentioned? Knowing is half the battle. It gives you the tools to complete the second half. Knowing is half, doing the other half. As Dr. Maya Angelou said, and I shared last week, when you know better, you do better. Knowing is half the battle. Doing is the other half. When you know what to declutter and you do, then you live differently. When we know what is cluttering our lives, when we know what is contaminating our lives, when we know what this is and we know what to do about it, we discern and we sort through all of these things within our lives and we handle the clutter accordingly. We sort, we prioritize, we categorize, we relinquish, release, we throw away what really does not serve. And some things we keep, we treasure, we collect, we honor, but we sort through the clutter, the beliefs, the ideas. And as we sort through it all, we handle it all accordingly in order for the end result to manifest. When we do this, we are well on our way to knowing, practicing, and living the science of mind and spirit as a way of life. As Dr. Holmes said, Sermon by the Sea at Asilomar, show me these groups of people who know what the teaching is, practice the teaching, and live it as a way of life, and I will live to see a world that works for all. So that is our invitation. to usher in a way of life for each of us, where we are the harbingers, the ambassadors, the physicians and metaphysicians, the educators, the gurus. We are the dream keepers and the dream doers. We are the Imagineers that are creating a world that works for all. This week's affirmation, our declaration, I'll say it first, and if it resonates with you, say it with me the second time around. I embrace divine guidance and the profound peace it brings by creating the space to live fully as my divine self. Together, I embrace divine guidance and the profound peace that it brings by creating the space to live fully as my divine self. I embrace divine guidance and the profound peace it brings by creating the space to live fully as my divine self. So it is. Our journal questions or Thursday night study questions. Complete this prompt. What I know to be true about myself right now is number 2. What is one thing you do every day that is improving or benefiting your life physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, socially, and spiritually? Number 3. What is something that you collect? What is something that you clutter? What is something that you hoard? Number 4. Give an example of a paradigm, a belief that used to be hidden, and share how that hidden thing was revealed to you and what you did from that point forward. And then lastly, what is something you haven't but are now committing to make space for? I haven't committed to making space for this in the past, but I'm committing to making space for it now. What is it? And breathe as we enter into that space of infinite awareness where we declare the truth, the whole truth, and only that which is true. We make space for that which God is as us. We make space in our minds, in our words, in our conversations, our communication. We make space for it in our emotions and our feelings. We make space for it in our activities, our behaviors, our habits. In other words, we are making space for God in every area, in all ways and always within our life. We allow God to be God as we wash dishes. We allow God to be God as we sit on the toilet. We allow God to be God as we shower or do laundry. We allow God to be God as we mow the grass. We allow God to be God as us, through us. So we don't simply have faith in God, we have faith of God, faith as God. Faith and God synonymous. We simply are faith. Life affirming faith. And life affirming faith must show up as life affirming action. And life affirming action shows up as a way of life. Life affirming action that shows up as a way of life transforms all aspects of our lives, all aspects of the world, a world that works for all. So, knowing that this infinite power and presence has as much space as it needs in our lives to give us the ease and grace to move freely on the stage of life, to do any dance move we need to move without fear of knocking over a prop or kicking a fellow dancer. We have more than enough space to laugh, to love, to joy and be in joy. We have more than enough space for it as us now. breathe. And with joy and gratitude, knowing that the it that I am making space for, the it we are making space for, that it is us. There is no separation between God and us. That which God is us. So it is us. We make room, we make space for us, for ourselves to live our best, most beautiful, life-affirming expression of this thing called life. The law does what it does. That means these are not simply words that are spoken, but these are words that demonstrate, that add to that which already is answered prayer. These words express that. These words are a description of that, in the same way that one would say, describe Ray, 5'10", brown skin, currently wearing a black dress shirt with a gold tie. This prayer, these words describe what is. These words describe the amen. And so knowing that that's simply what this is, a declaration of what is, I stand back and marvel at the magnificent and beautiful and powerful way that it shows up in, through, and as me and as everyone watching right here and right now. It is, I am, we are answered prayer. And so it is. And so it is. Namaste, blessings, much love and appreciation, everyone. Just as a reminder, we only do after message fellowship the first Sunday of the month, unless otherwise stated. Sometimes schedules change. So just, tune in, be aware, and see you sometime during the week in one of our gatherings, classes, study groups. And otherwise, I will see you here next Sunday and in fellowship the first Sunday of next month. Blessings. Love you. Be well.